Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 12. And
Yes.
2 equals 12.
Is this Sesame Street? Are we live?
It says we're alive. It does say we're alive. Yes.
Yes.
So welcome. Yes. Welcome to episode number 12 of Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer with Tim Sohn and Kara Oelker over there. Yes. We created this show as a safe space where cancer survivors and cancer supporters come together to share their stories and connect, as well as find resources that provide healing, hope, and resilience. I am Tim Sohn, a 15-year survivor of cancer, Kara's bestie, main host of Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer, co-host of the Tim and Jim Show, and a live stream show and virtual event creator, producer, and coach. And now I turn it over to my bestie, Kara Oelker, who we do this show together. It is our show, bestie.
Yes, it is, Tim. And thank you so much for joining us, everyone. Please let us know where you're tuning in from. Yeah, we appreciate you being here, and we want this to be a conversation. Already, we see conversations happening in the chat. So we also encourage you to connect with others in the chats. I am Kara Oelker. I am a personal power coach, Tim's bestie, and host of the Deepened Roots podcast. Super excited about that. And who do we have tonight, Mr. Tim?
Tonight, we are having a conversation with Emily Harman. I'm so excited to have her tonight. Her children's dad had cancer, as well as her mom. So let's welcome Emily to the show. Let's bring her on the screen. Welcome,
hey there,
Emily.
pretty lady.
Hello.
Hi.
And who do you have with you tonight?
Well, this is Pearl.
Hello, Pearl.
Pearl. She wanted to be on the show for a little bit.
Yes. Well, welcome to the show, Pearl, as well. It's great
She
to
has
have
a
you both here.
perspective because she was Bruce's comfort dog when he was sick. So
was she formerly an 85-year-old lady, and then she just transformed into a dog?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Got it.
Oh my gosh. Well, we're so excited to have you guys here. And Kara, let's go over to the comments and see who's tuning in.
Well, Jason Freeman said the countdown is happening.
Hey, Jason, great to see you.
Yes. Sri
Hey,
said,
Sri.
hey, Tim Sohn. And Bob Blanchard is here. Hi, all.
Great to see you, Bob.
Oh, Mark Kagayama. Oh, thank you, Mark.
You know who created those graphics, Mark?
Pearl.
No. My bestie created them. Kara created them.
I did. Who doesn't love
They're
hearts?
amazing.
You're crazy if you don't love hearts.
Yeah.
So,
just like
Denise, hi, Tim. So much
Hi,
love
Denise.
for Tim. Everyone give Tim love tonight.
Make sure you give Kara lots of love in the comments.
Stop deflecting. Hey, Inger, how's it going? Oh my
Hello.
goodness. Ronald, are you? Hi.
Welcome.
New audience member. We appreciate you and love you bunches.
Do you know Ronald, Emily?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay, cool.
Hi.
Well, welcome. Welcome, Ronald.
And Pearl from Nancy Barrows.
Thanks for being here, Nancy Barrows. Great to see you as well.
Yes. So, and yes, all these comments of, everyone just saying, hey, how's it going? What's up? It's like everyone's meeting at the water cooler and chatting and seeing what's going on. Love it. Thank you so much, guys. Oh my
Yes.
gosh.
Yes, definitely. So we're going to get the conversation started here shortly, but we do encourage you guys to share in the comments your perspective on cancer, your connection to cancer, also where you are tuning in from in the world. Just a reminder for that as well. So Emily, thanks so much for being here. And, as you share your story, take your time. Know we're all here to support you, and everybody's here to support you. So
Thank you.
significant, yeah, of course. So two significant people in your life have had cancer, your mom and your ex-husband. Which cancers were your mom diagnosed with, and how did you find out?
Yeah, so this was like 20 years ago. So my mom's still doing great. She's 78. She walks like 7 miles a day and, does the elliptical and P90X and, the treadmill. And she's, in really good shape, better than me. So I'm very fortunate to still have her. What happened was, I think it was when she was about 60. So close to 20 years ago, 59 or 60. She noticed the lump. And she didn't tell anybody. This was right around Christmas time. So I remember that I had, my young kids and I was visiting them for Christmas, and she was giving away some of her stuff that was kind of weird. Like I remember thinking, like, why is she giving that away? Why is she giving that to my kids? That it's kind of weird. Some of her sentimental things, but I didn't really ask her or say much, and she seemed fine. And so I guess what happened is, she went and got that lump checked, and they said, we're just going to test your lymph node near your breast. And that was a different kind of cancer. It was lymphoma. It was breast cancer and lymphoma. And then I don't know why they decided to do this, but they tested her bone marrow, and she had follicular lymphoma in her bone marrow. So she had 3 kinds of cancer. And so really breast cancer saved her life. Because the symptoms would have been, feeling tired, losing weight. She's always she's thin and everything, but she's always feeling like she needs to lose a little weight. And who wouldn't be tired? She and my dad were running a bed and breakfast with 25 rooms and a restaurant. So of course she'd be tired. So I think that the breast cancer saved her. And the way I found out is she emailed me at work, and I was not too happy with that. She emailed me and my brother and sister, and I got it right before a big meeting. People were in my office. I was not too happy with her. But when you look at that generation, and understanding her, it was really emotional for her. It was really hard for her to tell her kids. So the email was like, don't ask any questions. Don't email me. I'm just letting you know I have cancer. My first thought was, bitch, sorry.
No, these are real feelings. And I'm sure you said it to your mom before, so she's like, yeah, I know the drill. So thanks for saying that. Yeah, that's a real feeling. She was
terrified because actually her mom, my grandmother, died of cancer, but she had when my mom was around 34, I was 14, and she had a mole on her foot that turned into the size of a grape. So she didn't do anything about it. And
wow.
melanoma got in her brain and all of that. So, at least my mom caught it early and she took action. So yeah, she drank a lot of carrot juice. I don't know. She's always been somebody who eats healthy and everything too, but she drank a lot of carrot juice, so much so that her skin started to turn orange.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And what I love is that she was like, hey, let's just try this thing. And sometimes it backfires and makes your skin turn orange. And then other times you're like, maybe there is some truth into this. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
But it's pretty awesome that she's just doing her thing, and she's just feisty as ever.
Yeah. I'm really thankful that she's still around, really grateful. And it was a tough time in my life because I was a single parent with, my son would have been 7 or 8 and my daughter was 5 or 6. So it was just, hard to get down and like go to cancer treatments with my mom and stuff. She never missed a day of work. I don't know how she did it. She's just very tough. And part of it might be like when she was younger, I don't know if she can feel pain. Maybe she can, but when she was younger, she wouldn't get a shot of Novocaine to get her cavities filled. She would just have them filled without that, which I can't even imagine. So she must have a really high tolerance for pain. But, you know, I think my sister went to chemo with her a couple of times, but yeah. So she had like 6 rounds of chemo, and of this particular kind of chemo, you can only have 9 in your lifetime. So she's had 6. And so that I don't really know that much about follicular lymphoma, but that's the kind that's in her bone marrow, and it's still there, and it can always like come back and produce a tumor whenever. So she goes and gets checkups, but she's really healthy. So I'm fortunate.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
My goodness. And on the flip side, you have this major and relatively recent, I mean, it's still a recent experience. And first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for showing up and wanting to talk about this piece, because it is huge and it's big and it's necessary to talk about, and it's necessary for you to talk about as well, and just your current journey, how you are, and you know, your onward podcasts and whatnot. And so you know, your ex-husband also had cancer, and he unfortunately passed from cancer.
Yes.
And so can you tell us what your ex-husband was diagnosed with and how you found out, and when?
Yep. He was diagnosed with kidney cancer. And the way I found out is it was around June of 2019 when I found out, at the very end of June. And what happened was I had just retired from working for the Navy, and I was moving down here to Stanton, Virginia, excited to, you know, finally be able to put myself first, right? My kids are out of the house. I'm done working. I can, you know, put myself first. And my daughter was going to live with me, and she and I moved in here. And a few days later, I went to Oregon. Too bad I didn't know Russ. I went to Portland, Oregon. I would have looked him up, and D. Scott Smith. But I went to Portland, Oregon for a conference. And when I was out there, my daughter called and said, "Mom, Dad has cancer." And my initial thought was, okay, we can deal with that. You know, I didn't think it was that bad. But then I talked to his fiance, and she was saying it was pretty bad. And so I flew home, and it was the 4th of July weekend. And so I went and stayed with him and my 2 kids and his fiance at her house. He was living there for a little bit. He had his own house, but I guess he was living there on the weekends. And then when he got sick, he just stayed living there. And so that was the last time that we had a really good weekend together. But what had happened is he had started to feel pain in his shoulder. And he kept saying that he thought he tore his rotator cuff. And when they went to the doctor to get an MRI, that's when they noticed that he had cancer. And he had a tumor in each lung the size of a tennis ball. And he had a tumor in his kidney the size of a baseball. And then he had like a bunch of tumors in his torso and stuff. And so it's like, his arm was starting to get paralyzed. So I remember that 4th of July weekend, he was in a lot of pain. But, and I remember one day he was trying to like put his hand in his pocket, like put his wallet in his pocket or his keys in his pocket, and he couldn't do it. I was just watching him. So he went into the dining room and kind of pulled his pants down so he could get his hand in his pocket. And then a couple days later, he went to work on July 9th. And that's when they called like and said, "You have got to come in for surgery," because they found that he had a tumor in his neck. His whole C5 vertebrae was a tumor. And that's why his arm was starting to get paralyzed. So they did surgery on the 9th or 10th or something. And then they did another surgery on his neck to try to get rid of that, to try to remove the tumor. And when they did the other surgery on the 16th of July is when he became paralyzed in both arms. And his birthday was on the 17th. He turned 64. And so just my daughter ended up moving up and living with his fiance and helping Bruce out a lot. And I would go back and forth to help him out. And his his fiance, her daughter had a baby. And so I spent like a week with him helping take care of him and stuff. And it was just really hard to see him get so sick, from being so healthy to not being able to move his arms, to going into septic shock several times, in and out of rehabilitation, and to just see someone deteriorate that fast was really hard. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for sharing all of that and the descriptions that you gave and all of it, the dates, how it all coincided. So important, because oftentimes when you are a caregiver, someone who is a loved one who has cancer, you have these very vivid memories of these things that just happen and coincide and all of that. And so with that, is it okay if we go to the comments a little bit? Just to kind of have a little breather, and then maybe give Pearl a squeeze. If not, just ship her over here to Cincinnati. We'll squeeze on her. I'll squeeze on her. Hold on a second. I'm still like, oh, look what's going on here. There you go. Let's do it. Comments. What is going on? So, let's show Emily Harman lots of love, as if I need to ask y'all. So with that, we have a lot of love, phenomenal stories. Hearts by Tim, look at that. Emily, DJ's giving you lots of love.
Hey.
Inger, sending you many hugs and much love as you walk down memory lane, Emily.
Thanks, Inger.
Yes. And Emily, thank you for your courage to share this, says Ronald. Thanks, Ronald, my goodness, we need to connect. And
yeah.
Shout out to Pearl.
She says thank you.
Yes. Okay, so real quick, Emily's super cute in that you detailed her trip to the pet store with me one day, and she was like, Pearl's just like, so this is my store. Peasants get me my food.
That's right.
Yes. And then everyone's just chatting to each other, which is awesome. Again, water cooler talk. Love you, Emily Harman.
Thank you. Yeah.
And Ellen, good evening. Good to see everyone. Oh, you're never late. There's always replay. And thank you so much for showing up.
Yes.
My goodness. At any time also that we need a dance break or we need to divert, let us know. We got you. We can have our own little mission here.
Yes.
Okay. So how are we doing? Are we good? Okay,
good.
Awesome.
Even if I cry, I'm still good.
Okay, good. No, and that's the thing. Like, thank you so much for letting us know, because it's like, it's all of us, and it's episode 12, and it's gotten to the point where we're all family. We're all LinkedIn family. So, so thank you. And so you do talk about being a caregiver to your ex-husband the last few months of his life. Were you a caregiver for your mom? I know you touched on this a little bit, but
she didn't need one.
Yeah. What was it like knowing your mom was diagnosed with 3 cancers at one time? I know you said that you were a single mom and you were kind of focused on that, which was kind of a good thing that you could divert because it was pretty heavy. But what was it like knowing that all that was going on?
It was challenging. Since I've since I've retired, I learned a lot about myself, and I coach in that area of mental fitness, and I don't like to say I am a hyperachiever, but I would say, because I don't like to say I am, I say I have a hyperachiever saboteur in my mind and a restless saboteur. And one of the things that both of those saboteurs cause you to do is to avoid your feelings and to stay busy. Like a hyperachiever, feelings are like get in the way of achieving and checking things off your to-do list. And restless is a way to kind of just stay really busy so you don't feel your feelings. And I've been working with coaches and a counselor since I retired. And they'll ask so that I can get in better touch with my feelings, because I knew that's one of the reasons why I retired. I wanted to work on me. And so I think that I didn't let myself feel a lot when my mom was going through that. I just pushed through. That's the way I lived my life. Just push through, just keep going, just keep pushing. That's how I got through being a single parent. That's how I got through, some tough jobs. So anyway, I don't think I really felt a lot. Now I do. And my coaches will ask, well, what do you feel? And up until a couple of years ago, I'd be like, I don't know. I know what I think about it, but I don't know what I feel about it. And so I've been really getting better. And especially as a coach, I'm a coach now. So I want to be able to ask my clients, how are they feeling, and to help them through that if they're not able to name their feelings. So many people are not really able to understand what they're feeling and name it, and to know what they're feeling in their body. And actually, Bruce passing away caused a lot of feelings to come up. And I've had a guest on my podcast that says, when you shove your feelings to the basement, they go down and lift weights. And so we got divorced in 2001, I think. And so I just had to keep going because I was busy. I had to be a single parent. And, he wasn't somebody who was really involved in his children's lives. So a lot of stuff fell on me, and a lot of decision-making fell on me. And then if I made without his input, and if I made the wrong decision, he was able to criticize it, right? Because he wasn't involved in the decision. And so it was just really challenging. And I don't know where I was going with that, but I guess I would say too that all my feelings came up from the divorce and everything when he died, like guilt, regret, remorse, like what could I have done differently? So many feelings came up that I had to process. And it was a challenging aspect of him being sick, is that he had not been very nice to me when we were married. And I'm not saying that that I was a perfect wife or anything like that. But what I'm saying is that I also have a pleaser saboteur. So I stayed in the marriage for like 7 or 8 years and tried to make it work. But when the verbal abuse and everything just started impacting my kids, I had to leave. And so I guess, one of the things I want to talk about is the importance of forgiveness. I mean, I forgave him, and I didn't let that stop, didn't let how he had treated me stop me from helping take care of him. And it didn't stop me from loving him. So I'll share that.
What I want to talk about really quick is I want to commend you on feeling your feelings, especially around this. And it sounds like, Bruce having cancer and passing from cancer, that really opened it up to you just, I'm going to feel my feelings. And you and I have talked about this before, but just the whole notion of, when you pass on, and it takes all that energy out of you, literally, right? But when that person's gone, the people alive are left with all of that. They're left with their feelings. They're left with their thoughts. And it is hard to identify feelings. So the fact that it's taken you just 2 short years to identify feelings, that is a big thing, because a lot of us, we use umbrella terms like, oh, I'm sad, oh, I'm happy, oh, I'm mad. And there's so many other emotions along with that. And I'm sure with your coaching training that, you've been exposed to the whole, chart of emotions, which is actually very helpful, personally. I'm like, oh yeah, you know what? I remember that word, and I felt it a lot in 8th grade,
Yeah, I have it with my journal so I can remember, yeah.
Yes. And so I love that you bring this up, because it is important to have those mixed bag of emotions, that you can have this not perfect relationship with someone and still love them and still feel, grief, tremendous grief, and anger, and all of the emotions, like every single one of them, and process them and be safe and be okay in that. Because a lot of us don't feel that they can be safe, like, oh, I don't want to feel this, right? You were hiding away from your emotions for so long, and you were able to create a safe space within yourself to feel these. So I just, again, hats off to you for doing that, because that is such an important piece to life, and especially on the journey of not only being a loved one of someone going through cancer and passing through cancer, but also being a caregiver.
Yeah. And, something else that has helped me is some of the interviews I've done on my podcast. I interviewed Sophie Savage, who's written a couple of books. She just passed away recently from cancer, but I saw her book. I reached out to her. I interviewed Jane McCullen, Starving. I think her book was something about starving cancer. I interviewed her. I bumped some of my interviews that were scheduled back so that I could interview some of these people on cancer. And then I interviewed several people on grief. I've interviewed Shelby Forsythia, I think 3 times on grief, and talked about this with her. And so that has helped too. So many of my podcast guests have helped me. And, there's anger too, because it's like, what the heck? How do you have a tumor in each lung and one in your kidney that big and you don't know it, in your neck? And so you get pissed, you start to get pissed too. And I don't know if he knew he had it and buried his head in the sand, but he had a note, like his dermatologist kept writing him saying, you have got this skin cancer on your neck and you've got to come in and get it treated.
Yeah.
And it wasn't related. That's not related. But my point is, we would ask him about it. He goes, oh yeah, I meant to do that. I was busy at work. So I don't know if he was so busy at work that he was ignoring some of these symptoms that it would seem to me that you would have. I don't know for sure when you have that many tumors. And that made me angry, and because it's like, you've got 2 kids that you got to live for, his daughter was 23 and his son 25 when he died. And that's too young. I mean, any age is too young, but, so that's the other thing, is it's just been really challenging helping my kids through. And, I've shared before, my son's an alcoholic, but he was sober. He's been sober 5.5 years. And so I didn't know, would this lead him to drink or whatever. So that's another little nervousness that I had, but he did well. And, both my kids are doing well now, and they miss him terribly. I know that for sure.
Oh man. I can only imagine, I'm not a parent, and I can only imagine how easy it is to be in that people pleasing mode so quickly for your kids. It's like all bets are off because they're your kids.
Mm-hmm.
So I can only imagine how much you do take that on, because they're your kids and they're young and you just want them to be okay.
Yeah. So I feel it's probably pressure that I put on myself, but I feel some pressure being the only parent left to really stay healthy and live a long time, to take care of myself. So I guess that's a good kind of, an incentive, and maybe is the word instead of pressure. But I want to be around. Yeah.
Of course.
That's good.
So Emily, how did you process your ex-husband's death as his executor of state, ex-wife, and mother of his children? And how are you continuing to process and grieve, especially around forgiveness? I know you talked a little bit about that before.
Yeah. Yeah, I was the executor of the estate, and that was challenging too. So, I just learned a lot about how I do and don't want to leave things when I go. I just worked through it with counselors. One of the things that I learned to do is to feel my feelings, to not distract myself when they come up, to let myself cry, like what Kara said earlier, it's okay to be really mad at somebody and still love them, and to go from being angry to sad and all these other, emotions, frustrated. I have a hard time naming them all, but just to go through all of that is normal, and to feel it and to journal about them, and to expect that you never know when all of a sudden like a song comes on the radio or whatever, and it's like it just hits you when you least expect it. The other thing is that I thought when we divorced that, he was he was a hoarder. He had a lot of stuff. So I thought when we divorce, I'm not going to have to clean up his stuff. Yeah, we spent my kids helped me, but it was a couple of weeks cleaning up his house. Clean up your house. Don't leave it for someone else to have to go through. And it was so sad to see, so my son was 25 and my daughter was 23. So they were at the age where they're starting to realize that their parents are actually adults and humans, and humans, right? And we have history and we have jobs we had, and they start to become interested instead of when they were teenagers and they're all interested in themselves. So that was a challenging time to see my kids going through some of his stuff in the basement and wishing that they could talk to him about some of it. Like he was a test pilot for the Army, so his little log where he wrote stuff, or his books. And that's the other thing that this is kind of funny is I went to the Naval Academy, but I don't keep all my stuff. I don't have my books from like thermodynamics and electrical engineering and stuff. I don't have them. He had all his books in the basement. And so my son, who's an engineer, is looking through his books. He goes, wow, it must have been really hard for Dad when he was in college because they didn't have computers. And I'm like, well, what about me? It's like, now that he's gone, he's the hero, right? We didn't have computers when I was in college either. I had hard books too, just because I didn't save them. So it's just kind of funny, but you try to find some things to laugh, but it's really challenging to see your kids, want to ask their dad a question or whatever. My son talks to him all the time. My son has a big picture of him in his office, and he says he has conversations with his dad all the time. So, yeah.
I just want to throw out there that perhaps they do just kind of think of you as a superhero that you could overcome anything, which on one hand is a compliment, and on the other hand, it's like, no, I still struggle bus too. I just maybe made it look like it was easy,
right?
Right. But I could see how it's one of those like, no, we're on the same boat, okay? Like, look, I still had to do the same thing your dad did, but yeah. I mean,
I had hard classes too.
But on the other hand, I could see them being like, oh, but Mom's just a superhero. That's fine. No big deal.
Yeah, who knows what they think. I love my kids so much. I'm very close to both of them, so I'm thankful for that. So.
Yes, definitely. And you did touch on it a little bit. You talk about especially in our pre-interview, and you said you wanted to stress about this a little bit. You did talk about, you have talked about the importance of having your affairs in order, especially when grappling with terminal cancer. Can you share more about this with us, according to your perspective?
I think it's really important to, I mean, it hit him so quickly. And so it's really important to make sure you have a will and not wait until you get sick to decide to write your will. So that's important. The other thing is important to really think through and be clear, because if you write a gift letter at the end, or a gift letter that's different than the will, it's got your wishes. It's just better to have it all in the will, because the executor doesn't have to go by the gift letter. It's kind of, and you want to make sure that someone's not writing that gift letter for you. So you want to make, when you're not really coherent. So you want to make sure that you have everything documented in your will, and that it's easy to find passwords, because what happened is he didn't really admit that he was sick. And people didn't want to ask him for his phone password or his computer password, because then it would make it, maybe there's a bunch of pleasers around, but his fiance and my daughter, maybe they were just so busy caregiving too, that they didn't even ask for his password until it was too late. And then he couldn't remember his passwords. So couldn't get into his phone, couldn't get into his email, because the cancer started moving to his brain and he couldn't remember some stuff, and just happened so quickly. So, and then the other thing that I would say is, no matter how well you think people are getting along while all of it's happening, once there's a death and money's at stake, that's when maybe things don't go as well as you thought they were going when you were going through it. And so that's why it's just really important to have your affairs in order, and to have, I don't remember the name of the form, but at your bank, there's some kind of document that you can fill out that allows whoever's on there to take over the bank account right when you pass away. Because if not, you've got to wait and get the death certificate. And he didn't have that on his bank account. So we kind of had to wait and get the death certificate and take it into the bank before we could even access any of his money that was in his checking account. And, if you have accounts that you've had forever, go back and check who's the beneficiary on those accounts, because sometimes things change in our lives and we don't go back and change the beneficiary. And then that causes problems for people who are left behind, where they thought they were going to be the beneficiary and they really aren't. So those are just some things to think about. And it's painful to have to think about it, but it's important. I was able to, even though he didn't, I did have him he gave his West Point ring to my son, and he gave a nice cross necklace to our daughter while he was still alive. And I think that meant a lot to them. Yeah.
Yeah. When you're talking about all of this, from my personal experience, I saw it as, the handling of the estate and assets and money and all of that, before, during, after, people are operating from how they're processing their grief. So you have people who just avoid it and just remain objective, and they're just like, bam, 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 bam. And sometimes that can be a little cutthroat, right, and rub people the wrong way. And then you have people who are all about emotion, and that leads to mismanagement, not because of anything other than that's how they're projecting their grief. And it's still frustrating, because all of it, when it happens, logic goes out the window. You're literally functioning off of how you process grief and how you process emotion. and none of it's right or wrong, and it's still so infuriating.
And so stressful, and just so you're just like, it's exhausting. Yeah. Mentally exhausting, makes you physically exhausted too. Yeah.
So Bestie, how about let's go to the comments?
Yes.
That sounds like a good
very important perspective. Plan. And we have people. Oh, Mariah. Hello.
Hey, Mariah.
From Iowa.
Hi, Mariah.
Shout out to Iowa.
And Senor Payasada says talking the walls is therapy. Have you tried that?
I haven't tried that. I hug my dog, Pearl.
Thanks for the tip, Senor.
Yes. Oh, and I missed it. Hold on. Forgiveness is essential for our mental health, for our peace, and for being able to take care of others. I'm going up a little bit, so bear with me, guys. Forgiveness is so important. The world needs more forgiveness. So relatable, Emily, going through the motions to survive and appear strong for the one who is ill. So glad you recognize that and have gotten help. And a caregiver is every bit as tough as being a patient. God bless all caregivers. Oh. And I'm just going all the way up and then down. Crying is key to the healing process. Yes. Yes. Never be afraid to ugly cry, guys. Emily, you are amazing.
Thanks, Ron.
Great advice, Emily.
Thanks, Mark.
Charlene Brown.
Hey, Charlene.
Hi, Charlene.
Hey, amazing lady. And Jenny Gold in the house.
Hi, Jenny.
Hey, Jenny.
Oh, and Mark Lee.
Mark Lee.
That's
and my
sweet,
sister
man.
Eileen is here. Hey, sister.
Oh my gosh.
Hi, Eileen.
Come on, Eileen. Oh, hey, girl.
Yes, that is her favorite song.
Like,
or
sarcastically? Sorry, Eileen. Mark Lee says, and forgiveness is the hardest thing to do.
Self-forgiveness. Yeah, self-forgiveness.
Ain't that the truth? Yeah, and then someone shared their personal perspective and experience. My mother-in-law had money in savings that was inaccessible to use as expenses, should have been transferred to checking. Yeah, if you don't know until afterwards, and sometimes that's late. Yeah. And then you're like, oh my gosh, what the heck? You know, nobody tells you. And it's like, why isn't this taught in a class somewhere or some brief tutorial? You know, and then it's like
dying like that, you know, it's especially here in the US.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. You don't want, you know, do you want to be kept alive or not? And yes.
Yeah.
Yes. That's good, Bob.
Yeah. Another important thing is to document your wishes for the end game as well. I don't want my wife having to make those decisions. I worked with my medical team and answered as many decisions as I could. My wife will at least know what I want if the situation comes up and I can't answer.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. Okay. Thank you, Senior. Oh, wait, no. I thought you said, I didn't see snot. Somehow I saw snowflakes. What am I seeing today?
Selective comment reading.
I was hoping it was very sweet and poetic today, Senor.
One thing that's challenging being a caregiver is keeping track of all the medicine. So much medicine is prescribed, and he would go into this rehab and then out, and see this doctor and then out. And being a caregiver requires coordinating. His fiance did a very good job of that, coordinating with all the doctors doing the neck surgery with the doctor that's helping with the chemo, and getting it all straight and coordinating it. And I'll tell you what, I can't remember exactly how many pain pills he had left. It was unbelievable. If I had been an addict, I could be rich, or someone who, if I had sold all that, I could be rich. No accountability over who's prescribing what and how many pills, and do you have pills left and do you need more? Just prescribing oxy left and right. Unbelievable how much oxy we had in the house.
That is interesting. With my mom, we didn't have so much oxy, but we did have a little bit, and then we were able to properly dispense it or whatnot. And also, she was type 2 diabetic, so the unused supplies we were able to give back and donate. So that is also something as well. As you're grieving, you are able to somehow save a life, because of what your loved one is left behind, because they no longer need it anymore.
Yeah.
We were able to properly give back insulin as well, because at that point, because of her brain tumor, she was insulin dependent. And I became a pro at giving her insulin, which is not something to brag about. But I was like, oh my gosh, I don't want to be known for like being a boss at sticking my mom full of insulin. It's one of those things where you unfortunately have to learn, and then learning what you can do with those supplies. If you are at a place where you have to figure that out before, like you said, figure it out before if you can. Talk to your local pharmacy. Hey, I have this. When the time comes, what can I do to properly dispose of this or whatnot?
We gave it to the hospice nurse too. She counted it all and took it back. But I'm saying, as the doctors were prescribing it, they didn't seem to care how much we had.
That's so unfortunate.
It really is. You wonder why there's a crisis here in the U.S. with drug overdose. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. So I do want to ask, what advice can you give to anyone who is not grieving, who is not only grieving the loss of their loved ones, but also processing their fractured relationship with their loved ones?
I'd say, work with a therapist or a counselor or a coach or a pastor. I mean, reach out to people, maybe join a support group of people who have been through it, but be able to find somebody that you can talk to who will listen. And, it's not helpful to have someone that judges you or judges your feelings or judges your actions. So try to find somebody that is able to listen and just be there for you, just hold space for you, and make sure you give yourself that time as well. And I would say, I just recently finished coaching an 88-year-old man, and I've coached some other, older people. And I would say that what's really on their minds is mending relationships. Relationships are so important. Forgiving, they talk to me about, such and such happened and we haven't talked in a while. And, I really want to reach out to that person. How do I do it? They want to mend all relationships that they have. That's so important. And and I'm grateful. Like I told you, that there was times when I was really pissed at Bruce, and but I'm grateful that I did help take care of him, and because it just feels good to have helped him, and it felt good when I was doing it. And he was nice the whole time. He was such a nice patient, which was not always like him. He I think had a lot of anxiety, and he would get frustrated over some things. But when he was sick, he never complained. And he was so sick and couldn't move either arm, couldn't move his arms, couldn't scratch an itch, couldn't feed himself, couldn't go to the bathroom himself, couldn't do anything himself. So having to be so humbled, he was very brave, never complained, usually had a smile on his face, even when he couldn't get his food down. he'd be sitting in the kitchen, we'd be making something to eat, and he'd say, "Oh, that smells really good, but do you want any?" No, I'm not. He wouldn't eat, but he was just very nice the whole time. So, and I guess I would say too is that I know he died with regrets. I saw him. He didn't say a lot, but I could see what he was. I could get the feel. I knew him. I've known him for a long time, so I could get the feel of what he was thinking, and he had a lot of time to process and to think. And so we have that time now to take an assessment of our lives and really think, how do we want to be feeling, and what do we want to be thinking and feeling when we're at that point. And sometimes, like now, when something's stressful, you can even go visit your 90-year-old self and say, 90-year-old self, what would you recommend I do in this situation? And it gives you a whole new perspective. And he's the reason why I started coaching on create a life you love living now. Because I've got his files here, and he had a lot of files on retirement, like planning for when he retired. He didn't retire. He was 8 years older than me. He could have retired earlier, but he was 64. He hadn't retired. And I know that there was a lot of things he was planning on doing when he retired, and he didn't get to do them. And so we sometimes get to thinking like Bruce when he went to work on that July 9th day, to get his work done when he was in so much pain, and the doctors from Georgetown had to call and say, get in the hospital now. He was focusing on work. And I mean, work is important. We have to make a living. And I'm not saying that that's not true, but find a job, do something that you really love doing. We're only on this earth one time. Some people maybe believe more than that, but we've got this life. What are we going to do with it? What are we waiting for? What could I do today that I would really love? And that's what I encourage people to do. Last time I asked my 90-year-old self, he said crazy things. He gave up on him. He might have been senile. Maybe you need to ask your 80-year-old self.
Maybe. Oh my gosh, Senor. I love it.
Yeah.
And I love that you were able to have those moments with him where he just was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I'm here. I'm going to not fight this care being given to me.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he did have regrets. And it's so good that you were able to have that part with him, that, the other side of Bruce. Mm-hmm. I do know that like with my mom, my brother and I had different relationships with her. Mm-hmm. And I had to accept that when she passed. And there was no closure from her. There was no bow wrapped up. And that's okay. And I had to get to a place where I was okay with that too. Because ultimately, and that was when I realized that the power of our feelings are really all ourselves. It's all up to us. And I am a firm believer that, when people do pass on, they, I know we all have different beliefs, but I feel that when we do pass on, we somehow just kind of know, we just get it, but we can't really, that's not tangible here on earth, right? So the people left on earth, they have to just be okay with that. And it shows a lot of strength and courage and compassion and grace that you have been able to work through it and be okay with it all, even when it's not okay.
Yeah, I was fortunate. I got some closure because he died on December 11th, 2019. And it was around the 8th. I said, because the 6th was our anniversary. I said, a couple days ago would have been our 28th wedding anniversary. And he was laying in bed and he looked at me and then he went like this. I'm sorry. So I know what he meant, and that's the closure. And he knew I loved him. That's why I was there taking care of him. At his fiance's house, taking care of him. And she did too. So 2 women that loved him, were there. And so
love is love, though, love is love.
Yeah. So really mend your relationships as best you can, because I think that that's a big thing that's on a lot of people's minds as they get older.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
So Emily, as we start to wrap up the conversation, what is one thing you hope for your children as they continue to grieve and evolve as young adults?
I hope they know, and I'm sure that they do know, how much their dad loved him. And I always told them he loved you and showed you the love as best he could. He may not have shown them the way they felt like they needed to hear it or see it, but he loved them and they know that. And I just, I want my kids to take care of themselves, to take care of their health, and to create a life they love living. Recently my son, he's going to school studying engineering, and he called me and he was all stressed out about something. And I'm like, about what he was going to do in his future. Maybe he didn't want to study engineering. Maybe he wanted to do something else. I'm like, Will, you've got a mom who coaches on creating a life you love living now. So why don't we talk about it? Why don't we go do a coaching session on it? And so I just want them to realize they don't have to do what I did or do what their dad did. Their job is to be them. Like one of my guests, Paul Pettit, says, your job is to be you. And that's what I want my kids to find, is that joy from being themselves.
My goodness. Unfortunately, it does take that sometimes, the pain of losing someone, to be like, you know what, though, your memory, my love for you, all these memories about you, it's a catalyst for, wanting to just make my life better,
Mm-hmm.
And that was a gift that Bruce has been able to give to you and your kids.
To me and my kids, yeah. And I've done this little meditation with one of my coaches before, where you can go and I go and talk to him. And his message to me was, you're doing a great job, and thanks for continuing he's leaving a legacy. He's helping people create a life they love living because of what he went through. So he thanked me for that. And I know it was him. So yeah. His life is, not that it didn't mean anything before I did what I'm doing, but I'm just saying, it's helping a lot of people, including me and his kids.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And this perspective right now is helping people too. Mm-hmm. People now, people in the replay. The most beautiful thing about this is there's something that all of us can take from this, even just a little piece, whether we've been there or not, we can take from it. So that is the biggest gift that you're giving us right now, aside from just being amazing and always being in our LinkedIn lives and having this amazing show, Onward podcast and all of that. But my goodness, thank you so much for showing up and being here and giving us your perspective.
Thank you, Kara and Tim, and thank you for starting this show, because I know it's helping a lot of people with all these different perspectives. It's kind of, sometimes cancer is something we, society tends not to talk about. And, you're going about it in a way where people are sharing their feelings, they're sharing their experience, they're sharing their thought processes that help them, and the actions they took that helped them get through it. And so I appreciate you guys for starting this show.
Of course.
Thank you, Emily. Thank you.
And connect with her down
Yeah,
below.
definitely.
Connect with her if you aren't connected with her already. She is amazing, and she'll send you pictures of what Pearl's doing.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you ask nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm going live tomorrow night, 7:30. So that'll be a fun show. So I go live Wednesday nights at 7:30 for anyone who wants to join me.
Yes. Check it out, everyone.
All right. Thank you so much, Emily. We're going to gently whift you back into the green room. And if you can hang out for a few minutes, and we'll see you after.
All right.
Yes.
Thanks.
Cool. Thank you. Oh.
Hi, Bestie.
Mr. Tim. No.
I like that perspective.
No. My big old head. Oh my goodness, everyone. Emily.
Yes.
Just air hugs. My goodness.
Yes. Lots of air hugs.
Yes. Do you want to go to comments real quick?
Sure, why not? All these amazing people showed up to support Emily, so we should do that. Sure.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, my computer's thawed. Okay. So Ronald says, thank you, Emily, Tom, Kara. God bless you, Emily, and your children this year. My goodness. And
thank you, Ronald.
Thank you, Emily. This has meant a lot. Thank you, Emily. Thank you.
Hey, Diane.
You. I think everyone's just like full of love right now and gratitude. They're just like, thank you. And then we have this. So you have an old Senora Payasada hanging out at your event tomorrow at your show in the comments. So be ready for that. It'll be, I feel like it's going to be fun.
We would be lost without you, Senor Payasada. I don't know what we would do without you.
I don't know how I've even lived life without you, Senor, so far.
I know.
My goodness.
Yes. So. Do
you want to be a guest on the show or know someone who might want to?
Do you?
DM us. Anna, do you?
I want to be a guest I was a guest on the show. You were a guest on the show. But do you out there?
Do you think we can get Pearl to be a guest on the show? Emily's giving us a thumbs up. We're going to have a translator and she'll talk to us.
Oh my gosh. Oh, and there's a Philip Jones here. I don't recognize him either. He just tuned in from California. Thanks for being here.
Oh, hi, Philip. Thank you so much. Yes, let's connect afterwards. And thank you so much for showing up, and catch us on the replay as well.
Eileen wants to be a guest. Do you really want to be a guest on the show, Eileen?
What are you doing next week? Just kidding. We'll send you the link, Eileen. Can we just gang up on your brother now? I think I found a new bestie.
Mabes.
Want to support the show as a sponsor? Message 10 for details.
Thanks for keeping the show moving, because I'm absolutely no help tonight at all.
I mean, look at that face. You're good. You got this. So yes, thank you so much for joining us, everyone. We appreciate you. And yes, if you do want to be a guest on the show or know someone, or if you just need to talk about anything, please message us. I know that this episode, my goodness, this in particular is just such a beautiful perspective. And if you just need to talk or whatever, we're here. And we just appreciate you so much showing up. New people in the audience, people who are showing up every single week. Like literally, we have episode oneers. And
it's true.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much. And we're excited next week to have Tim McDonald on the show.
Oh yeah, let's do this. Things have moved, so then suddenly there's hold on, we got this.
We do got this. It's all good. And Eileen is saying love. Let us know in the comments, how do you say love? Do you say love or do you say love? Bestie, how do you say love?
Love. And awesome. I did have the graphic, and then suddenly I don't have the graphic. So of course this always happens inevitably every single episode. But we do have Tim McDonald next week, and that's going to be an amazing perspective.
It will be for sure. Yes.
Talk about feelings.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So thank you everyone for tuning in for another episode of Showing Up Perspectives on Cancer, and we will see you next week. Bye.